we actually had some TV broadcast schedules released. Now, before Colin shows you these schedules, I want you to do something for me. I want you to, for the second time in the show, take your mind back. You can close your eyes if you want to, just make sure you're not driving. Take your mind back to August 9th. It was a Sunday night. We did an episode of Late Kick Live. I was sitting right here at this desk, and we were going on air as tweets were going out all over the place from various national college football media types that it was expected by the end of the week, all college football will have been postponed. Do you remember that night? It's like Black Sunday. And then, shortly thereafter, the Big Ten did postpone, famously. And then the Pac-12 followed suit, but then a funny thing happened, and Notre Dame synced up with the ACC, and the other three Power Fives stood firm, and still are. So, my point is, think about how bleak things seemed that Sunday night. And then juxtapose that to how beautiful the image is that Colin is going to show you. And if I were to have been able to show you the TV schedule graphic that we have released today, that night, it sure would have cheered you up, wouldn't it? We had to go through the dark times to end up here when we look at this. The SEC on CBS, we're going to talk about other conferences too, but the SEC on CBS schedule, partial schedule, was released today. Now look at that week one matchup. This caught a lot of your eyes. And I agree with it, but a lot of you don't agree with it. Mississippi State at LSU is the game that they chose as their national broadcast game, the 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central game there. And a lot of you said, well, Kentucky at Auburn will be more competitive, and Tennessee at South Carolina will be more competitive. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, certainly in terms of a pregame point spread, you would be accurate there. But you can't be thinking in mere football terms here. Executives think in marquee. That's what they think about. So you don't market a good, solid line of scrimmage battle on the plains between Kentucky and Auburn. What you market is defending national champ, gutted. Can Coach O right the ship? Mike Leach makes his debut in the SEC. That probably doesn't all fit on the marquee, mind you. But you see what the mentality is there. And so couple that with the fact that who in the world knows what to expect from LSU week one? I think the line on that thing is somewhere between 16 points and 3 touchdowns. However, it's week one. You don't know what to expect from either of those teams, quite frankly. So we'll see about that. But outside of that, look at week two. Alabama hosting Texas A&M. That's one of those games that, of course, you can't know this in week two, but that's one of those games where we could look back at the end of the season and say, well, that's the one that decided the SEC West, for all we know. Of course, everyone's attention gravitates right to that October 17th Titanic matchup, Georgia at Alabama. That is, by no one's surprise, the 8 p.m. Eastern primetime slot that they have chosen. In a way, we get completely and totally robbed because we don't get to see the full scene that a normal college football season would allow Tuscaloosa, Alabama to present on a Saturday night there hosting Georgia, but still fun nonetheless. And speaking of Alabama, big rivalry games over there, I know it doesn't say it on the graphic here. Well, it says part of what I'm about to tell you. There is going to be, if everything stays on track, there is going to be an unprecedented television event on November 14th. Not only do you have Alabama at LSU as a night game, but you noticed the start time was 6 p.m. Eastern, not 8 p.m. Eastern. Normally, the primetime game wouldn't be 8 p.m., like the Georgia-Alabama game. That November 14th, why is that 6 o'clock? I'll tell you why. The Masters is also happening that weekend. You're going to have, if everything goes according to plan, a Saturday in which CBS, the company that on that Saturday, and pretty much every Saturday, I will be very happy to be working for, CBS will be broadcasting the Masters, and then they will seamlessly toss from Augusta, Georgia, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for Alabama versus LSU, perennially the biggest game in the SEC for the last several years. My prediction in an uncertain world is quite a few of you will have it locked on CBS and just able to throw your remote away for that Saturday. Elsewhere, Notre Dame made a pretty big announcement today, or I guess NBC and Notre Dame made the announcement. We don't have a graphic for it, but Mike Tirico has done the lead play-by-play duties for Notre Dame on NBC for a number of years now. Does a really good job, one of my favorites in the business. They made a change in that broadcast booth for NBC. It will now be Mike Tirico joined by Tony Dungy, who replaces Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie, I know, is still going to do a lot of pregame, halftime, postgame coverage, but That could be a really, really good pairing there. Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy doing the NBC games for Notre Dame. The ACC released some schedules today, too. Of note, in week 1, you have Georgia Tech at Florida State and Clemson at Wake Forest. That'll be your 3:30, 7:30 ABC kind of doubleheader to start the season in the ACC. But the Clemson Notre Dame game, which is what everyone's kind of waiting on in the ACC, that one is November 7th, and they wasted no time telling you November 7th, you better be parked at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, and have it on NBC, because that is where Clemson and Notre Dame will take place. There is a whole lot to talk about here. I know that we're kind of responding to a question. Several of you asked me, hey, what did we think about the TV schedules that were released today? And so I chose the end of the show to talk about them. You know what I found is there's not a person out there who is not interested in talking about TV schedules. Everyone loves it, and especially if you have a nice fancy graphic to go along with it.